The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The committee got it right.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
They did it. We talked about the Longhorns needing 2 wins in Nashville to make the NCAA tournament. They beat Vanderbilt on Wednesday. They beat Texas A&M on Thursday, and that was enough to get the Longhorns in. Texas is one of 2 number 11 seeds in the Midwest region. The Longhorns will take on Xavier this Wednesday night in the first 4 in Dayton. The winner of that game will advance to take on the 6th seed Illinois on Friday in Milwaukee. And it turns out Texas was kind of safe. Now, I can't say they were safe because they're playing in the first 4, which means they were one of the last 4 teams in. But the committee had them as the first of the last 4 in, ahead of Xavier, San Diego State, and North Carolina, and obviously ahead of all of the teams that missed the cut, West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio State, et cetera, et cetera. Joe Lunardi had Texas out, so if you looked at his bracketology, you were probably sweating all day yesterday. Jerry Palm had Texas out, and those are 2 of the biggest names in bracketology. They both thought the Longhorns wouldn't make it. They both got it wrong, and good thing they did. Texas was safer than I think any of us expected, but the Longhorns earned it. They should be in the dance. We did a video last week comparing the Longhorns' resume to the other teams that were on the bubble, and the biggest thing for Texas and the biggest reason why the Horns ultimately got in, Texas had beaten more quality teams than anybody else by far. 7 Quadrant 1 victories for the Longhorns this year. There's only 18 teams in America who have more than that. And none of those 18 teams are on the bubble, by the way. They were all safely in the dance. So I get it. 6-12 in the SEC, not great, but every tournament game is a quad 1 game. And in my eyes, the committee's job is to put teams in who actually have a chance to win games against good teams. Texas has proven with 7 Quadrant 1 wins and 5 wins against ranked opponents that they can beat tournament caliber competition. A lot of the other teams on the bubble, they didn't prove that this year. Texas, by way of playing in the SEC, they got the chance to prove that, and they did a lot over the last couple of months. And let's call a spade here. SEC bias is what got Texas in. I mean, I complained about SEC bias forever when Texas wasn't in the SEC. Now that the Longhorns are in the SEC, I'm a huge fan of SEC bias. But really, the Southeastern Conference had the best season a single conference has had in modern college basketball. That was represented with the bracket. The fact that 14 SEC teams got into the dance, shattering the Big East record of 11 that they set a little more than a decade ago. 14 SEC teams got in, and a lot of those SEC teams were seated a little bit higher than most bracketologists thought. This conference got a ton of love from the selection committee, and deservedly so. This conference was incredibly good and incredibly deep. And yeah, 14 of 16 teams got in. I feel like LSU and South Carolina should be relegated or something. Maybe they should get kicked out for not being able to make the dance when everybody else did. But no, again, if Texas went 6-12 in the Big 12 this year, they're not even sniffing the NCAA tournament. Now look at West Virginia, the first team out. They had a much better conference record than Texas, but they didn't play in the SEC. So Texas, again, got plenty of opportunities to play against quality competition. And even in some of the games the Longhorns lost, they were very close and very competitive. They played Tennessee close in Austin. They played Auburn close in Austin. Obviously, look at the wins that they put up as well. To me, it was kind of a no-brainer, especially considering the fact that we didn't get a ton of bid stealers over the weekend. I was watching that Memphis UAB game yesterday, kind of freaking out, like, oh my God, I hope UAB doesn't take Texas's spot. But when you look at the teams that were on the bubble, again, to me, it was clear and obvious. Yes, I'm biased. Look at the hat I'm wearing. Look at the Mo Bamba Time to Hoop shirt I'm wearing. Look at this TV screens behind me. Yeah, I'm willing to admit that I'm biased, but who you play and who you beat matters. This is not a college football playoff. Oh, hypothetically, if this team played that team, who would win? There are legitimate statistics and legitimate metrics out there that are created to compare NCAA tournament resumes. And quadrant one wins is obviously one that the committee values really, really highly. So is net, so is strength of record, so is a number of other things that Texas fared very well in. So those metrics absolutely mattered. And again, the Longhorns being able to play in the best conference in the sport helped them out for sure. We'll spend more time talking about Xavier tomorrow and Wednesday, but some early thoughts on this matchup. I think Texas is the better team, but here's the big but right here. Xavier is in Cincinnati, Ohio. The first four is in Dayton, Ohio. Those two cities are less than an hour away from each other. My point is, this will be a road game for Texas. Not ideal. You usually only get those home court advantages for like 1 and 2 seeds in the NCAA tournament. But the first four is always in Dayton. Xavier not good enough to get a field of 64 spot, so they're playing in the first four. But yeah, Texas is going to have to deal with what should be a pretty hostile environment on Wednesday night. Another interesting storyline. If you believe reports, a few years ago, there were reports out there that said if Rodney Terry didn't get the full-time job after 2023, Chris Del Conte was very seriously interested in hiring Sean Miller, who's Xavier's coach. He was their coach back then. He's the Musketeers coach right now. I wonder if the winner of this game on Wednesday gets to coach Texas this year. I don't know if that's the actual prize. The actual prize will be getting to play Illinois on Friday and, not having your season come to an end. But that is interesting there. I have no idea what the future holds for Rodney Terry. Maybe Texas making it to the tournament keeps him around. Maybe Texas needs to win this game on Wednesday. Maybe Texas needs to win a few games for RT to get brought back in 2026. But you do wonder if, where there's smoke, there's fire. There was a lot of smoke surrounding Sean Miller's name a couple of years ago. Could he be a target for the Longhorns if CDC makes a move whenever the season is over? By the way, Texas did beat Xavier in 2023 in the Sweet 16, 83-71. And the Longhorns run to the Elite Eight that season. That game was never close. Like Rodney Terry got the better of Sean Miller a couple of years ago. So Xavier, 21-11 this year, 13-7 in the Big East. That was good enough to have them tied for fourth. Only one quadrant one win at Marquette against Shaka Smart, funny enough. But that's the biggest blemish on the resume. Again, much better record than Texas, but just one quadrant one win for the Musketeers all season long. It's why some folks weren't sure that they were going to get in the dance. Their best player is a guy named Zach Fremantle. I feel like he's been there for about 15 years. He's a stud, their leading scorer, their leading rebounder. He is a matchup nightmare because he has size and he can stretch the floor. Ryan Conwell averages about 16 points per game. He's their second leading scorer. He's a 42% three-point shooter. It's a very experienced team, right? Early thoughts on Xavier, just looking at Ken Palm, they are the second most experienced team in the country. Now, in the era of the transfer portal, a lot of those guys' experience came at other schools. But when you're just looking at how much Division I college basketball that roster has played, second most in America. It's a great passing team. They're an elite three-point shooting team, sixth in the country in that stat. That always scares me. I don't like running into teams that can shoot incredibly well in the tournament because, of course, you only get one chance against them to win. But, they're not super big. And I think, again, I think this is a game that Texas can win. I wish Xavier was located in like West Virginia or Nevada or Washington or anywhere else outside of Ohio. But I still think Texas has a shot to win this game and move on to the round of 64 to take on Illinois. The good news for Texas, and I'll let you hear from Rodney Terry here in a moment, but the good news for Texas, the first four started in 2011 when they expanded the tournament from 64 to 68. In every year except for one, a team that played in the first four went on to win a game in the actual tournament. 2019 was the exception. But every other year, a first four team went on to win a game in the round of 64. And matter of fact, two first four teams actually made it all the way to the Final Four. Another Shaka Smart reference. I don't want to be doing that. Shaka Smart with VCU in 2011 went from first four to Final Four. And then UCLA did it in 2021, going from the first four to the Final Four as an 11 seed. So I don't know if those are realistic expectations for Texas, but again, history has shown that momentum actually matters. And if you're able to win a first four game on Tuesday or Wednesday in the tournament, you've got a shot to win a game on Thursday or Friday in the round of 64. in the tournament. So if Texas can get the job done on Wednesday night, maybe put the Longhorns to get past Illinois and maybe get a rematch with Kentucky. Texas beat Kentucky in the regular season. I wouldn't hate seeing that on, what would that be? On Sunday in the round of 32. Obviously, that's going to take the Longhorns winning 2 games before we get there. All right, let's let you hear from Rodney Terry, the head coach of the Texas men. He had a press conference right after Selection Sunday down on campus yesterday. Here's RT's opening thoughts on making the dance and this matchup with Xavier.
I'm excited about where we are. Obviously, we've loved to have won a few more games. Sure. I've been here 13 years and, we understand what the standard expectations are at the University of Texas, and we don't shy away from that. But we are excited about this opportunity to continue to play, and we've been granted 40 more minutes, just like everybody else in this tournament, and we're going to be excited about competing and obviously have a really good challenge in a very well coached Xavier team. A lot of respect for Sean Miller. I've had a chance to coach against his teams for a number of years, and his teams are always, really good offensively. They play really fast in transition, and this team here in particular is a really good defensive team. So Sean's always done a great job. A lot of respect for Sean Miller.
Yeah, Sean Miller's a great coach. Was at Arizona for a number of years, had some tournament success there, got let go after an NCAA scandal a few years ago, took the Xavier job where he was before he took the Arizona job, and the Musketeers back in the tournament again. So he is a very good coach, and we'll see. It's round 2. Rodney Terry got the better of Sean Miller in round 1 back in 2023. They will square off in the first 4 here in 2025. Again, we will continue to preview Texas and Xavier over these next couple of days before we get to Wednesday nights.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and who's cutting down the nets. You've got to have those 5-12s. Got to pick a couple 2-3 12s to win in there. Got to get a 13 maybe to beat a 4. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, game props, with tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. Looking ahead to the first 4, there's an interesting matchup for the right to play Auburn. We got to find a way to make these games interesting, right? Alabama State takes on St. Francis, PA. FanDuel has Alabama State favored by 3.5. Visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
They were screwed by the committee.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Indiana left out of the NCAA tournament in 2025. The Mike Woodson era in Bloomington is officially over. And I'm going to say this as plain as I can. You heard it already, and I'm going to say it again. The Hoosiers got screwed by the NCAA tournament committee. And the fact that the people who are on that committee are also serving as active athletic directors, not all of them, but enough, and one all-important one, it's unacceptable to me, I feel like. And Indiana got left out and had an argument to be in there. I think that West Virginia had an argument to be in there. I think Ohio State had an argument to be in there. Heck, even Boise State had an argument to be in there. But I'm glad that the SEC got their 14th team in with Texas, and I'm glad that North Carolina, with one quad 1 win, is going to be able to play in the NCAA tournament. I don't care that it's in the first 4 in Dayton. The fact that they even sniffed the NCAA tournament is a disgrace. It's a joke, and they should all be flat out embarrassed. They absolutely should. You take that baby blue away and the UNC logo off of it and just put gray colors and letters on it, there's not even a discussion about them making the NCAA tournament. Give me a break, right? And so Indiana, while we did not have a good season by any means, did I think we deserved to be there? I think we deserved to be in the conversation. And I thought going into Selection Sunday, you could look at any bracketology, right? There are 8, 10 of them, whatever the case may be. You can look at any bracketology going into this Selection Sunday And Indiana was in half of them and out on the other half of them. Some had us playing in a play-in game. Some had us solidly in. Some had us solidly out. Well, the committee got together and decided that not only were we not going to make the tournament, we weren't even the first team out. We were the second team out behind West Virginia. And man, I can't grasp that. I just can't. And again, did Indiana play good enough this season to deserve to have a huge argument here? Well, that's up for you to decide. I think we should have been in the discussion. And sounds like we were, but we got booted for a team with one quad, one win. So congratulations to Hubert Davis in North Carolina for being probably the worst team to ever make the NCAA tournament. But for us to be left out and be the second team out is truly incredible to me. And you could say, hey, win more games and you don't have to worry about it. You're absolutely right. But I thought a win over Purdue and Michigan State down the stretch would have been good enough. I told you that game against Oregon in the Big Ten tournament was a big, big deal, and we weren't able to do it. That game against Ohio State was obviously important, but not important enough, apparently, to the committee because the Buckeyes were right there too, and they didn't make it to the NCAA tournament. So the Big Ten ends up getting 8 teams in. The SEC gets 14 teams into the NCAA tournament. They're a great conference. They are. But do they really deserve 14 compared to everybody else? I don't think so, but it is what it is. And now the Mike Woodson era is officially over in Bloomington. And so the question becomes, now what? Now what do we do? Now what happens to Indiana? Well, that's pretty simple, and we'll talk about that coming up in just a few moments. But before we do, I want to let you know that this bonus episode of Locked On Hoosiers here on the channel is brought to you by Supply House. Okay, Supply House is a place that you can get all the supplies that you need from the site made for skilled trades. Supply House, whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage, and now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's at supplyhouse.com. Today's episode, this bonus episode, an immediate reaction episode, is also brought to you by Wayfair. Your home should reflect your style, and with Wayfair, it's easier than ever to make that happen. Whether you're looking for a simple refresh or you're tackling a big home project, Wayfair has everything you need all in one place. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find the perfect piece no matter your space or your budget. From cozy furniture and stylish decor to kitchen essentials and outdoor must-haves, Wayfair has it all, and at prices that fit your budget. The site made it simple to compare styles, and my order arrived fast with free delivery. I ordered a TV stand from Wayfair. Why? Because the prices were great, the selection was awesome, and it was super, super easy. Head over to wayfair.com and find something that's just your style today. That's WAYFAIR.com. And again, that's Wayfair. Every style, every home. So now what do we do? As Indiana officially out of the NCAA tournament, got screwed by the committee, but you'd expect nothing less with IU and a coach on his way out the door. Why would you want to put them in the tournament when you could put a quad one win North Carolina team, a Texas team from the SEC, and Xavier, I guess? Sure, why not? For Indiana, 4 quad one wins. Guess that wasn't enough. 6 quad one wins from West Virginia. Guess that wasn't enough. But thankfully, we put the North Carolina Tar Heels in the NCAA tournament. And so now what? Now what do we do? Well, the season's over. And this means we're going to see the coaching search really ramp up for Indiana. We talked about Ben McCollum on Friday. If you missed that, Be sure to go check out that episode. We're now hearing a ton of news and noise about Brownell, right from Clemson. More on that on tomorrow's full episode of Locked On Hoosiers. And just a reminder, if this is your first time here, we post episodes Monday through Friday, 25 to 30 minutes long, talking all the biggest news around Indiana. So if you're interested in this coaching search, or if you're worried about your coach leaving for IU, this is the place you need to be. Locked On Hoosiers, wherever you get your audio podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, you can get it right here every single day. So that's what's going to happen next for Indiana is you start to ramp up the coaching search. You get your whiteboard out, you write the names down, and you start making some calls. And for Indiana, right, you want it to happen immediately. Fans want it to happen tomorrow, but you're going after a lot of coaches as of late that are in the NCAA tournament, and you're going to have to wait until they're no longer actively coaching to have those true conversations. I think some feelers have been put out there. I think you even have some communication going on right now between IU and maybe some of the camps of these coaches, but to get them on the phone, they can't be actively coaching. So think about that and keep that in mind. I just wish that this team would have one more shot. Was I confident in Indiana making a run in the tournament? No, not really, but I wanted to see guys like Trey Galloway get another shot. I wanted to see guys like Anthony Leal get another shot. I wanted to see some of the transfers, right? Like Umar Ballo or Luke Goody get a shot at the NCAA tournament, or somebody like Malik Renew, who put so much into this program in just a short amount of time, and they're not going to get that chance. And there's no telling what this team is going to look like next year to start the year. I would guess it's going to be just bare bones and have to restart from the ground up. And maybe that's not such a bad thing, but I can't get over sitting there watching the selection show. As soon as I saw North Carolina and Texas both get in, I knew right there that we weren't going to make it. And so while it sucks to have the season come to an end, you can now fully focus. If you are Indiana basketball, if you're Scott Dolson, the AD, you can fully turn your attention to the coaching search.
The West Virginia Mountaineers left out of the NCAA tournament.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I wasn't expecting this. As the bracket started to be laid out and things started happening, as soon as Vanderbilt got in, I knew we were in trouble. When North Carolina got in, I knew for sure we were out. Like I was telling everybody, like once those two happened, there was no margin for error, and we never get the benefit of the doubt, right? So I knew that was going to be the case. Like that's why I'm able to do this so quick. I went ahead and changed everything. I had a whole different. I made my thumbnail hours ago. West Virginia's going dancing, with Darren DeVries jumping up and down in the air. I was all excited about that. And in reality, West Virginia is in the first four out. According to Nicole Auerbach, she just posted, West Virginia was one of the first four out with Indiana and a couple other teams. I have to go back and look. So obviously, West Virginia won 6 quad 1 games, didn't have a bad loss on the resume, although you could argue Colorado was a bad loss. Certainly the TCU game was a bad loss. And I said it all year long. The most important thing you can be doing come March Madness or come March is playing well. And West Virginia was not doing that. They were not playing well towards the end of the year, not by the standards that were set in the beginning of the year, right? West Virginia was playing poorly comparatively to the first 17 games. We know that. Once the teams figured out Javon Small, it was tough sledding from there. So I still think West Virginia deserved to get in based off of merit, but certainly I can see how the committee justified this by looking at them and saying, look, if you like, let's just pull up the schedule really quick. Very frustrating, guys. Very frustrating, I know. Okay, so in West Virginia's last, let's look before Iowa State and after Iowa State, because I feel like that was a turning point in the season. What I considered the flu game or whatever happened there when everybody got sick. And then we had Arizona State right after that. It was just a bunch of weirdness all in a row happening. So West Virginia beats number 12 Iowa State a week after losing to Houston, but everybody loses to Houston. Previous to that, West Virginia had beaten obviously some pretty good teams, right? You go in the tournament, you beat Gonzaga, you beat Arizona, you lose to Louisville in overtime, who won 27 games. You beat Georgetown, you beat NC Central, and a lot of these teams didn't help. Our non-conference wasn't great outside of the three in the tournament, Gonzaga, Arizona, Louisville. But then you've got Georgetown, NC Central, BCU, Mercyhurst, right? You even had UMass in there. None of these teams ended up being good, including Pitt, which was a really bad loss when you look at it. So breaking it down, though, you do get the Kansas win, which is a big win, obviously. You beat Oklahoma State. You beat Arizona a couple weeks prior, but then Arizona comes back and whops you by 20. You beat Colorado, but then you lose to Houston. But then you beat Iowa State. Then you lose to Arizona State. Then you lose to Kansas State. And after that Iowa State game, things really started to fall off. You go from beating Iowa State to losing to Arizona State, losing to Kansas State, losing to Houston, losing to TCU, barely sliding by Utah, losing to BYU twice, losing to Baylor. You barely beat Cincinnati. You get smacked by Texas Tech. You beat TCU, UCF, and Utah on the back end of your schedule here. So sure, the entirety of West Virginia's schedule is pretty good. 6 quad 1 wins. But when you really look at it, we were playing like shit at the end of the year. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what the committee looked at. And you look at Arkansas, you looked at other teams that maybe were playing just a little bit better than West Virginia headed into this. No, I get it. That's not what it should be, right? It should be the merit. What did you do over the course of a season, regardless of how you were playing towards the end? But that's just not reality. That's not what happened here. First of all, you were just, unfortunately, you weren't up against, in this situation, let's say you weren't up against Mississippi State and you weren't up against even Texas A&M in basketball. You were up against Texas, North Carolina, Indiana. Like, they had to, I truly believe that those internal biases happen in these situations. And very usually, unless we're just like cut above, we're not going to win those battles head to head a lot of times, because I believe in these internal biases that people have. We had 19 wins. We did just enough to put us there on the bubble. So don't put yourself in the situation to be on the bubble. Beat Colorado, right? Don't have the worst game of your life in Monty Hansberry against Colorado. I do feel like we got robbed. But if you really look at it and be honest with yourself about the totality of that schedule, the way we played the first 17 games against the way we played the last dozen and a half games or whatever, it wasn't the same. And the momentum wasn't there. And your best wins were Utah and TCU on the back half. There wasn't a BYU win on the back half. There wasn't. There was Utah, right? So it's just a total flip, and we weren't playing well going into the last of the season. It's very frustrating, man. I wanted to cover this. I haven't been able to cover us in the NCAA tournament since I started doing this. It's really freaking frustrating, man. It really is. And to say that I don't understand how you can put Xavier in North Carolina in over West Virginia. Like, those are the ones that frustrate me. 1-12, in the quad game. I guess, you know what, next year, maybe quads don't actually matter. What are we supposed to like? They switch it up. They move the goalposts all the time. We never know exactly what criteria they're using. This year, it was non-conference schedule. That's what they're saying right now. Non-conference schedule matters, guys. Not quad 1 wins. Not the conference. We don't have the Big 12. It's not as respected as it was the last few years now. Now it's the SEC puking 13 teams into the tournament. Get out of here with that bull crap. It's ridiculous, man. And I'll be honest, too. I really believed West Virginia would have had a chance at a great run here. I think the way we play with Javon Small, guards win big. It's proven over the years. Guards win big in March. Guards are tough to guard in March. Teams would have had very little time to prepare for Javon Small and company. And I think our defense would have carried us, and I think we could have won a couple games, but we're not going to get to see it. And what a weird year this could turn out to be if it ends as poorly as it looks like it could end here. Because for whatever, for better, for worse, the news ain't done here, man. It's not. It's just not. Like, we're going to have more stuff to talk about. It's just not going to be what we want to talk about. I don't want to talk about West Virginia missing the tournament. I don't want to talk about who's going to stay and who's going to go. I don't want to talk about Darren DeVries at Iowa. I don't want to talk about who to replace him with. I don't. I want to talk about us in the tournament. And that's not going to happen. We got robbed, and I feel bad for Javon Small, especially because of all the players on this team, he never played in an NCAA tournament game, and now he doesn't get to.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and who's cutting down the nets. You've got to have those 5-12s. Got to pick a couple 2-3 12s to win in there. Got to get a 13 maybe to beat a 4. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, game props, with tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. Looking ahead to the first 4, there's an interesting matchup for the right to play Auburn. We got to find a way to make these games interesting, right? Alabama State takes on St. Francis, PA. FanDuel has Alabama State favored by 3.5. Visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
The deals are done.
You are Locked On Bengals, your daily Cincinnati Bengals podcast.
All right, Jake, let's start with Jamar. Highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. We knew it would get there. I think we all knew. Anything surprise you about the 161?
Nothing is surprising to me about the Jamar Chase deal from a financial perspective. I think that it could have been 164 very easily. It just barely jumps over Myles Garrett by $0.25 million instead of $1 full million, which is interesting. $112 million guaranteed, which is not a number I was sure the Bengals would get to for him, but they get there. It beats Justin Jefferson by a lot in the overall money category, of course, and in the guaranteed money category as well. And as is pointed out by others as well on social media, Jamar Chase's contract now runs for the next 5 years. So he was under contract for 2025 already. A 4-year extension on top of that goes to a 5-year total. And for those 5 total years, it's $182.8 million over those 5 years, including the 5th-year option that he was due in 2025. So that works out to be in the mid-30s over 5 years for Jamar Chase. That's the benefit you get in getting those extensions done early. So just to give the full breakdown there, that's a lot of money. Don't get me wrong. That's a lot of money for Jamar Chase. They will have to figure out what the structure looks like. They figured that out. We'll have to figure that out and see what it looks like, see what that tells us about their intent to spend additional money this year, their intent to manage the cap hits in future years, fully expecting some option bonuses here so that Jamar Chase has another big payday coming next year, and prorating that cap hit out into the future. The other thing that I wasn't so sure about, and we'll see what exactly this will look like, but Jordan Schultz also indicating in another tweet late on Sunday that both cap numbers are expected to decrease. And I wasn't so sure, James, that Jamar Chase's number would decrease, and I'm not sure how substantial it would be. I was pretty confident about it for T with the franchise tag number at 26 point something million, but I wasn't so sure about Jamar's, because looking at Joe Burrow's deal, they didn't reduce his year 5, his 5th-year option cap hit when they did that extension, but they apparently are doing it for Chase. We'll see to what degree, but if they are reducing those cap hits this year, we still need details there, and we'll talk about T's contract as well. That will tell us about their intent for the rest of free agency as well.
Yeah, I think, well, there's a big difference, and that's why the timing of these is so important. I mentioned getting Jamar's done in March and not June. Well, yeah, now you want the cap hit to go down. Joe's was in September. Who cares if it doesn't go down? It was already done. Like the
Well,
season was
it was
starting.
for the following year too, because they got Joe done a year earlier than Jamar.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. In that's, but there's so much time to forecast that, and you're talking quarterback. Anyways, the point is like now is the time to do it, to shrink these down as much as you can, or at least to a degree, so you can use that money elsewhere. And hopefully both. Hopefully that's why there was so much inactivity. Is they're like, look, there's some good players that we want, but we're focused on getting these guys done. They said that they could do the parallel paths thing. I also think that it takes time to get both of these deals done. They're two substantial deals. And so now they need to hit the ground running and continue to add to their roster. And by doing it now, because 5-6 days ago, there were people, and this can be like the last thing on Jamar, and then we can get to the financials and stuff on T. But there were people that were like, Jamar's just going to wait out Micah. And that was just clearly not the case. He was not worried about waiting out Micah. I think it was the other way. I think this was making sure that T was taken care of. And the fact that it was really, it's a big layer of this, is Rocky Arsenault being the agent for both of these guys, and T. Higgins switching agents, and how that opened up the door for this to be possible. And then I think we're both under the impression that Jamar was close around the combine, like that they had exchanged numbers, things were getting there. And it sounds like Rocky was like, before we get Jamar done, we're focused on T.
Yeah.
And kind of use that to prioritize T to get both of these done now, which does help the Bengals, because you do not want that cap hit at $26.179 million for T. Higgins. And to get that done now, they did a couple of things. One, they were able to get a 4th year with T, but they did something that I'm not sure anyone expected them to have to do, which is give that second year. That second year is guaranteed of this deal. His age 27 season in 2026 is going to be guaranteed now.
And you point out that move that Arsenault made, and that's straight up reported on by Ari Meirov at this point. I think we can consider that to be fact. I mean, Meirov tweeted over an hour ago now, as we're recording this past midnight Eastern time, that Arsenault told the team no Jamar deal without T. And
Got it.
So one, that's clever from the agent's perspective, but two, I think that it tells you about what these guys' relationship is about. And as we get into the details here, the financial details for T. Higgins, I think that T. Higgins, I mean, he's already a fan favorite, but this is putting your money where your mouth is, if you're T, to stay in the situation he's in with the Cincinnati Bengals. And you do not see that kind of loyalty from players. Yes, he got paid. Don't get me wrong. He would have gotten paid more on the open market if he had made this very difficult. If he would have stayed with David Mulligetta, he could have made more money. And so what the deal looks like now for T is 4 years, $115 million. So not only did he change agents and strategize with his teammates on the team to make sure that he got a deal to stay in Cincinnati, he also gave them a 4th year. And I think that's probably in exchange for that 2nd year guaranteed. So this is now the 3rd player, in addition to Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, that the Bengals have given guarantees to outside of year 1 in recent years. And the 2nd non-quarterback, in addition to Jamar Chase, to get guaranteed money from the Bengals outside of year 1. And that $115 million over 4 years is just south of $29 million per year for T. Higgins, who was expected on the open market to be over 30. I think across the board, that would have been the expectation. And there are incentives in that contract for T to get to $30 million per year if he does hit all of those incentives. Now, we don't know what those incentives are yet. We haven't seen the structure of the contracts or anything like that. But the things that I wanted to underline here are, one, the clear desire from T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow to continue to play together in Cincinnati. And two, the Bengals' willingness to play ball here and put guarantees outside of year 1, especially for T. I thought they would have to do it for Jamar. I think we all did. But doing it for T. Higgins as well shows a bit of an evolution for this team that is very noteworthy and will be noteworthy when we look back on it when we're talking about future free agent negotiations for the Bengals.
Yeah, hopefully it's the start of something unprecedented for the Bengals that not only is now precedented, but is just part of what they do. And it's if you have a really high-end young player or you want to swim in that free agent pool, you're willing to give guarantees in year 2 because that opens up a whole nother level of keeping the Jesse Bateses of the world, of keeping guys like that you draft, develop, and hope become stars. Like you're hoping Amarius Mims becomes the best right tackle in the league. Well, guess what that means when you go to extend him? That you're paying him guaranteed money in year 2, which would be a great problem to have. And so hopefully that's it. Good for T. By the way, if I'm the Bengals, I would much rather have T for 4 years than 3 years if it means guaranteeing another year. Absolutely. 4 years is way bigger than 3 years with just guarantees in year 1. It's well worth the trade-off there.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and who's cutting down the nets. You've got to have those 5-12s. Got to pick a couple 2-tree 12s to win in there. Got to get a 13 maybe to beat a 4. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, game props, with tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. Looking ahead to the first 4, there's an interesting matchup for the right to play Auburn. We got to find a way to make these games interesting, right? Alabama State takes on St. Francis, PA. FanDuel has Alabama State favored by 3.5. Visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
We all imagined the Orlando Magic would look exactly how they looked in the fourth quarter of Sunday's game.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast.
We have been waiting a long, long time for the Magic to have a win like this. Yeah, they got the Milwaukee Bucks last week, but the Magic as a team have simply struggled to do what they did Sunday afternoon. Beat an elite opponent, win on national TV, and we could talk, and we may talk tomorrow about why all that is so important and why this win doesn't necessarily change what's happening this offseason. But the Magic entered this season believing they could win games like this. They entered the season believing in their potential of what they could be. They had a vision for what this season was going to be, and they have not lived up to that vision. This is a disappointing season to be at 32-36, 37, whatever their record is. I'll look that up. Let me get that right. To be at 32-37 is a failure. Is not what this team imagined, is not what this team envisioned. They have not had the year they hoped for or believed they would have. And it's for a number of reasons. Injuries are part of it, like all those reasons. But it's mostly because they haven't been able to play to the standard and level that they expected. Players haven't stepped up. Players have regressed. They've struggled. They've lost trust. They've lost their mojo, their confidence, all of these things. For the last 2 months, the Orlando Magic have not looked like the Orlando Magic, or at least the Orlando Magic that we envisioned, that we believed in, that we thought was possible. The Magic have always had their work cut out for them. They always had a hill to climb. There's always a next step. But we didn't expect to take this step back. And the Magic have not been able to recover. They've told us repeatedly, we believe we are the team, this team. We believe we are this hounding defensive team, this measured, composed, sharing offensive team. And we haven't seen it. It hasn't played out. We can't deny it. We can't ignore it. We can't pretend that this isn't the case. The Magic are who they are and what their record says they are. But they've always also been the team we imagined. It just has struggled to come out. Throughout this 5-game road trip, we've seen it a little bit more. Better defensive effort minus rebounding against Houston. strong sharing the ball game against Milwaukee, against New Orleans, a strong defensive effort throughout the whole 5-game road trip until the fourth quarter against Minnesota. But against Cleveland, the best offense in the league, in a close game at the end, when you have to make plays, that's when all the questions get answered. That's when you find out who you really are and what you're really made of. With 2 minutes to go, the Orlando Magic trailed by 3 points. For the way this Magic offense sometimes plays, and for the way the Magic offense played for a good chunk of the game on Sunday, that felt insurmountable. It felt like a lot. Yes, the Magic came back from 13 down twice and all that, but it felt like a lot. And then it happened. That light bulb clicked on offensively. That idea of, this is why we signed Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. This is the Kentavious Caldwell-Pope we imagined. Setting a ghost screen for Paolo Banchero, getting the Cleveland Cavaliers to be confused about what they were doing, slipping him into open space as the defenders went with Paolo, and then feeding him for a game-tying 3. Then a few possessions later, trailing by 1 point, the Magic ran that same look again. The Cavs were on it this time. They switched. But that put Donovan Mitchell on Paolo Banchero. And Paolo took that attention, took that mismatch, got to the foul line, and forget what he did the rest of the game. Forget the struggles that he had to shoot the rest of the game. He buried a free throw line jumper for the lead. And then the Magic's defense took care of business from there. Contesting a 3, getting a rebound to get a free throw to go up 3, then contesting 2 threes, struggling to get the rebound, contesting another 3, and finishing the game. Those final 2 minutes, that is Orlando Magic basketball. That entire second half, where the Magic's defense led the way, made it so difficult for Cleveland to get threes. Yes, got lucky that some open shots didn't go down. Grinded the game to a physical halt. Did not care if they fouled. Did not care if they were fouling as much as they were getting to the line. Made Cleveland have to just grind their gears and find their way through. That is Magic basketball. That is the way they always imagined this team would play. And then you use that defense to create some easy offense and transition. You trust your teammates to make open threes. Anthony Black made 2 big ones in that fourth quarter. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hit his. Paolo Banchero hit 1. And you trust your stars to carry you through the finish line. This was the vision. This is why the Magic believed what they were capable of. That they could stymie a dynamic offense like the Cavaliers' offense. That they could crowd and congest the paint, making it hard to kick out, making it hard to get to the open shooters, to the open players, making it hard for them to function. So that even when they did get open shots, they're rushing, knowing the Hawking Magic defense is right next to them, is right by them. And then using some space, using some creativity, using, yes, the gravity of their 2 stars attacking the basket to create open opportunities and stepping into those shots with confidence. Paolo and Franz did not play well. They did not have good games at all to score their 24 and 22 points. They did not shoot well, combined 14 for 41. But it didn't matter. The Magic's defense did the job. They made their threes, 13 for 31. That's 41.9%. They made 3 more threes than Cleveland did. They got to the line for 34 free throw attempts. They scored 26 points off 14 turnovers. And yes, Orlando had 12 of their 18 turnovers in the first half. The second half was brilliant, 61-43 in the second half. They trailed by 13 at halftime. They cut that deficit to 1 in the third quarter and pulled away, holding the Cavaliers to 20 points in the fourth quarter. This was not the vision to win a championship. The Magic will have to be a lot cleaner if they want to get to that level ever. But this was the vision for this team. This was the vision the entire time, to be this staunch defensive team that is so tough to score against. It just creates frustration. It creates anger in their opponents. This is Magic basketball in all its glory, in all its fun, in everything that it is. This is Magic basketball. And it has been a long, long time since we've seen it. Plain and simple, a long, long time since we've seen it.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and who's cutting down the nets. You've got to have those 512s. Got to pick a couple 2-3 12s to win in there. Got to get a 13 maybe to beat a 4. FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, game props, with tournament games happening almost every day. There's always something exciting to bet on. The FanDuel app is simple to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly. No waiting around. Looking ahead to the first 4, there's an interesting matchup for the right to play Auburn. We got to find a way to make these games interesting, right? Alabama State takes on St. Francis, PA. FanDuel has Alabama State favored by 3.5. Visit FanDuel.com to get in on the college hoop action all tournament long.
The Oklahoma City Thunder continue their dominance of the Eastern Conference.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're talking about the Oklahoma City Thunder dominating the Bucks in the fourth quarter, getting their 3rd straight win in a row, their 9th straight road win, and another win over the East for this Thunder team. The wins keep piling up, and it feels like we keep saying every win's the most impressive win because there's little storylines and details that make it feel that way. But in the end, this was one of the most professional wins for the Thunder. This was one of the most mature wins for the Thunder because of the circumstances. To sweep a 3-game road trip where you don't have Jalen Williams for any of the 3 games, and you break it down like this: no J-Dub, no Wiggins against Boston, no J-Dub, no Chet, no Wiggins, and Dort doesn't close the game against Detroit because he had an injury. No Dort, no Dub tonight. And for the Thunder to go 3-0 in that stretch is wildly impressive. And I'll tell you how, because you go back and listen to last week's episode where we're previewing this upcoming stretch, and we thought 1 and 2 would be pretty good under these conditions, because this is a Thunder team who has struggled at times to score when SGA is not on the floor, when they're at or near full strength. And without their second best scorer, they not only were up to task, but they thrived in those minutes. If I would have told you heading into that Boston game where some of the air was let out of the balloon when you found out that J-Dub was not on the road trip, that the Thunder would only get down by 2 points against Boston and Milwaukee. The largest leads that Boston and Milwaukee had in each game was 2 points. You would have looked at me like I had 3 heads. It felt impossible. But this team continues to do the impossible. This team continues to defy those things that we think about them on each given night. And I think that both teams deserve a lot of credit tonight because they were both playing on the second night of a back-to-back. Milwaukee did get a tiny boost for both of them being at home, but it's still very tough. And to each team's credit, until Milwaukee let go of the rope in that fourth quarter and the Thunder lead ballooned out to 25, it didn't look like these two teams were on the second night of a back-to-back. They really gave it their all for 48 minutes. Not always the case in the NBA, but especially in the NBA on the second night of a back-to-back. But it was a credit to the Thunder to be able to outlast this Milwaukee team. I mean, at the first stoppage, it was 13-0. Milwaukee was locked in and dialed in on both ends of the floor. Oklahoma City was as well. 4 lead changes, 4 ties. But at the end of the day, it was the secondary unit that shined. Isaiah Joe, Isaiah Hartenstein will be big conversations tonight. But the Thunder's defense held Milwaukee to 39% from the floor, 38% from 3, and 27% at the charity stripe. Meanwhile, the Thunder shot 51% from the floor, 34% from 3, and 76% from the charity stripe. The Thunder dominated points in the paint, 60-36 against a very big Milwaukee team. OKC was a -1 in second chance points, is a -3 in fast break points, which is where Giannis was able to get going because whenever the defense wasn't set, he did get the bulk of his points. But the Thunder just absolutely obliterated Milwaukee on the glass, 50-34. Thunder had 31 assists. Both teams had 9 turnovers. And the Thunder allowed just 15 points in that second quarter. 15 points in that second quarter. And that's how this group did what you need them to do in the playoffs with one hand tied behind their back. What do we always talk about when we look at this team big picture wise? When they have J-Dub out there, he doesn't need to be Shea, but he needs to have that secondary unit at least float. You can't sink in the non-Shea minutes. But if you can get J-Dub to have this team swim and extend their lead instead of just floating, then that's where you get blowout losses. That's where you get lopsided series. That's where you get a massive advantage. They did that against Boston and against, especially tonight, Milwaukee, in a big way without their second best scorer. So the fact that this secondary unit was able to swim on their own without SGA was impressive. So much so that, the Thunder, they're trying to manage the minutes. They're trying to figure out how to handle the back-to-back, but also trying to figure out how to time everything because you're preparing for, I don't want to say you're preparing for the secondary unit to sink because that's a bit extreme. These are still talented players. You would hope that they could float, but similarly to what they've done in the past where you keep it within striking distance and then Shea takes over, you were expecting kind of that to be the flow of the game. So Mark was able to change the rotations for Shea to where in the first quarter, Shea typically plays all 12 minutes, but instead he played 10 minutes with the idea, I'm assuming, being, hey, you play 10 minutes here. We can get you back in the second quarter 2 minutes early when in all likelihood, we're going to need you to come in early and salvage the end of that second quarter. But they took him out 2 minutes early in the first quarter, and that secondary lineup, it swam so well, it excelled so well down bodies that they were able to extend the lead. First of all, wrestle the lead away because they were down 2, get the lead and extend it. And Shea was able to play his normal rotation, not subbing in 2 minutes early, just coming in after that 7-minute mark. And that's a huge advantage for this Thunder team. That's part of the difference tonight of the Thunder could survive without Shea. Milwaukee couldn't survive. They just couldn't survive. So without Dame and Giannis especially. So I just think that the Thunder deserve a hat tip because they had every reason to go the other way. And this team continues not to fall into norms. And it's interesting because if they keep that trend up, it's going to end in great success. But what's the norm in the NBA? You go on this 3-game road trip. It's getaway day on the second night of a back-to-back. You feel like you've overachieved, frankly, of we already got 2 in hand with all this adversity of all these injuries that stacked up over the course of this week. Losing Dub on Monday, you lose Dort, you lose Zeus Saturday. Wiggins has been in and out with an illness. It feels like you've kind of made the best of it, so to say, heading into this game. And so if they would have packed it in second night of a back-to-back, it'd be tough to criticize, right? Because that's kind of what the NBA does, except that's not what the Thunder team does. That's not at all what the Thunder team does. And so I thought that deserved, quite the appreciation for the effort level that this team plays with every single night. And it's led to their success in the regular season. And hopefully for the Thunder, they can parlay this into success in the postseason. But these things really do matter. The ability to find ways to win and to have that next man up approach. And, you're not going to replace J-Dub scoring by just having someone else take over. It's sort of similar to Moneyball, right? Where the A's can't go replace Giambi, but they can replace him in the aggregate. You're pulling and prodding and trying to push and pull to find ways to collectively add what you're missing. And I thought defensively tonight, it really showed out where against Dame and against Giannis, what were you missing heading into the game? You were missing a wing who can scale up and defend all 5 positions. You were missing an elite point of attack defender. Well, enter Cason Wallace in that Lou Dort role where he hounded Dame and was awesome in that Dame assignment, including especially at the end of that second quarter. Again, the Bucks had 15 second quarter points. They were searching, clinging, and clawing for any momentum heading into intermission, and Cason just shuts down their final possession and gets the ball out of Dame's hands. And then you're trying to replace J-Dub, who can defend all positions on the floor and really scale up and defend bigger bodies like a Giannis. Enter Alex Caruso, who's another guy that is able to scale up and defend multiple positions. It just continues to display the embarrassment of riches that this Thunder team has, and the depth and the quality of depth that this Thunder team has. It's impressive. It's impressive. And you should really appreciate what you're watching, because I really do believe, with all due respect to past Thunder teams, this is the most talented Thunder team that Sam Presti's ever put together. I don't know how far they're going to go. I can't promise you that they're going to go to the finals. I can't promise you that they're going to win a championship. But as far as pound for pound talent from the 1 through 15 spot, this is the most talented roster that they've put together. This is the best Thunder team. They're on pace to have the most wins in the regular season. We'll see what they end up doing come playoff time. But it's impressive to watch night in and night out. They are truly elite defensively. They play to their identity every single night.